sessions here with the Oranges Toolkit. So we're here to speak all things wellbeing, and our idea behind our fireside chats is to speak to a range of leaders across sectors to really help you as leaders and HR practitioners to support your own health and wellbeing and that of your people around you. My name is Tegan Davies and I'm the General Manager here at the Oranges Toolkit. And just like many of us, I've experienced the harshness of lockdowns, particularly here in Melbourne, and I've really, really deeply missed nature, especially camping. So we're thrilled to give you the next best thing, which is our virtual fireside series. So before we start, just a little housekeeping. I'm going to keep my eye on the chat function here. Really love for you to introduce yourself and let us know where you're coming from. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask our panelists today, feel free to ask that in the chat as well, and I'll try to prioritize those questions. If you do have any technical issues, the wonderful John is here to support you. So you can simply, in the chat function, click on the name that says the Oranges Toolkit, and John can help you out there if you have any tech issues. To start today, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that I'm coming from today, and that's the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. And I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And the photo that I've shared with you today, it was actually taken yesterday morning from about 1 kilometre from my house. And it's the Maroondah Aqueduct, or the Plenty Gorge Park here, just outside of, or inside of Greensboro. And I just think it's such a beautiful way to start my morning, and it's an opportunity for me to think about the land and how lucky we are to be on this land. So I'd really encourage you to have a think about the land that you're coming in from today as well. Feel free to share where you're coming from, the traditional owners. So I guess without further ado, I'll talk a little bit about the Oranges Toolkit and our pretty interesting background. For those who don't know much about us, we build mental and emotional agility through seriously refreshing workplace wellbeing and resilience programs to ultimately help organisations adapt to the complexity and the change and adversity that we're experiencing at the moment. And as Camp Quality Social Enterprise, we also give profits to support kids facing cancer. And I won't focus too much about that, but I will share with you, or we'll ask Angie, our head of marketing, to share with you our story for those who don't know much about us. So you're all here for Ana Gelemanovic. She's the General Manager of People and Culture at Mitre. Ana has over 14 years experience in the exec level, particularly around the HR side of things. She's led people and culture functions in Australia and international brands as well, including Mitre, obviously, Porter Davis, T2, Officeworks and Hallmark Cards. And I'm absolutely thrilled that Ana is here to speak to us today. Welcome, Ana. Thank you for joining me by this virtual fireside today. Just remember, as always, to press, oh, you did already, that beautiful microphone button so that everyone can hear. So just to give a bit of background, I mean, I'm sure most people on the line today would have heard of Mitre, but I don't think they necessarily realise the complex structure that Mitre kind of has. And I wonder if maybe you could share some insights around that structure to help people, have a bit of context around the environment that you're working in.
Yeah, sure thing. Hi, Tegan. Good to chat again with you. So Mitre Independent Hardware Group is part of Metcash. So Metcash has got 3 pillars: food, liquor, and hardware. So Mitre 10 falls into the hardware pillar. So we have 2 key brands: Mitre 10 Home Timber Hardware and a joint venture of Total Tools. It's a retail and wholesale business. We've got a lot of retail stores, some of which are company owned, some of which are franchised, and some of which are independent members, as well as joint ventures. So a whole complex and very diverse business model. And we're constantly working through who are our key stakeholders and how do we engage across that. Plus, as I mentioned, the wholesale business. And working across 2 key segments, I guess DIY, do-it-yourself, retail, as well as working across trade, across Total Tools and hardware. So about 3,000 employees across our pillar, combination of support staff, retail and wholesale, DCs as well. So I've been here for just over a year, so it's been lots of learning, and joining during COVID, been challenging, but all
Yeah, I'm
good.
sure. Yeah. I mean, the world of HR practitioner or even a leader at the moment is extra complex, right? And
Absolutely.
I guess I would be really interested in actually exploring that question first, because you've kind of hinted at this kind of complexity around, particularly you started only about a year ago.
Yeah.
What do you see as some of the challenges that leaders are facing at the moment in terms of trying to lead teams?
Yeah, I think the world's become really complex. I think leading a team, working from home as well, so you're missing that physical connection, the teaming behaviours, and in the hardware pillar, we're really big about culture and seeing each other and being with each other. So that's been a real pivot for our business. We're very family orientated. So that's been really challenging. How do you still remain connected with your teams when a lot of them are working from home? The other big challenge, I mean, we've been really fortunate through COVID. We've kept trading, albeit in different ways, whether it's through click and collect, click and deliver. So life has been really hectic. So we've had to be really agile in how we have responded to COVID. We've had constant lockdowns, so the fatigue. We've got families juggling homeschooling, working from home. So there's been lots of complexity for the leader, particularly, as well as the managing remote workforces and being agile in terms of how we're servicing our customers. I think the other piece has been dealing with the P&C HR challenges has been even more complex. I mean, we're dealing with vaccination status, we're dealing with wellbeing, which not everyone feels comfortable as a leader to talk about with their team. So we've done a lot in terms of, actually this month we launched for the first time a toolbox of focusing on resilience and how do we help our team members become more resilient, particularly at this time. So lots of new challenges and unknown areas for leaders to step into. So that's been really hard. And we've been trying to upskill them and support them. And it's even hard from a HR practitioner point of view. I've got a background in psych, even challenging with some of those skill sets and background as well. So
yeah, really interesting.
Yeah.
And it's kind of not really unsurprising. I think a lot of organizations are really struggling with how do we exist, how do we connect, how do we collaborate with each other? And I think it's difficult, and most of us are kind of flying by the seat of our pants and test and see. And I think the wonderful thing about our current environment, although it's really challenging, is that organizations have adapted so quickly. Really, for the first time, we're seeing rapid change actually work okay. But you're right, it's definitely added extra pressure to leaders and HR practitioners. So what are some wellbeing initiatives that you've seen in your time, whether that's at Mitre 10 or the other organizations you've been with? What are some initiatives that you think have worked really well and that could support others to deliver them in their own organizations?
Yeah, I think particularly at the moment, we've spent as an exec team, particularly in hardware, life is complex, as we've just talked about, for our team members and our teams. So what we've tried to do is actually reprioritize. So let's not make life even more complex and add more on the to-do list. People are managing homeschooling, people are managing life, people are managing working from home, wellbeing challenges. So we're constantly reprioritizing to see whether, can we kick this can down the road? Can we not do this? Let's not add more to people's workload. So I think that's been really, really important, because people are just navigating the complexity. We don't need to add more to it. So I think we've been doing that really consciously, and I think our teams are starting to appreciate that. The other piece is something we just did, even at, that connection piece, and we did this last year at Porter Davis as well, but we did it across hardware, Kilometres for Kids, so Life Changer Foundation. That's really about supporting and upskilling the youth in our community. So we joined the Kilometres for Kids Challenge, which just got everyone active for 21 days, even though we're in lockdown. So people are posting photos about their daily walks and what they're doing together with their families to maintain being active. And as an organisation, that really helped connect us with a shared experience. And we managed to raise over $27,000 for, supporting the youth of Australia and building that resilience and wellbeing through Life Changer. So that was really positive. And I think what we've done really well is just listening and checking in. There's lots of team meetings, talk about work content, but just picking up the phone, a text, or a walking meeting around the block just to check in and see how people are. So that's been a big focus for us.
Yeah. I always find it fascinating listening to business leaders around what kind of interventions work really well. And for half the time, it's stuff that's free, right? Like you didn't actually have to put money out, to do the kilometers, the kids, the fundraiser you did anyway. I just forgot the name of it. That's just about someone going, you know what, let's band together and do a community initiative. Same thing with your check-ins. It doesn't cost any money. It's actually just taking the time to be a human and wanting to connect in a meaningful way. It's interesting you bring up the fundraising arm of what you were doing, and that's the need for human connection. And we know, and you would know this as well, how powerful human connection is, and how we're actually wired to be connected. And when you're pulling that away from people, you're kind of making their framework of well-being a bit wobbly, and finding a way to connect people, and also greater sense of meaning and purpose. Such a brilliant way to contribute to your employees' well-being.
Absolutely. And it links into our vision. We're all about championing successful independence, so helping the community. So this just kind of dovetailed into what we're all about. So even that higher order purpose, which was really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Community and Mitre 10 go hand in hand. I grew up in a small country town in the middle of South Australia, and my local Mitre 10 was that, and the footy club was the two kind of hubs that brought the community together. And my mum, I don't know if I've told you this, but my mum used to work in the garden shop in Roxby Downs, Mitre 10.
Awesome.
And I used to be there after school all the time, and it was absolutely that sense of connection and meaning. And I love that still has kind of resonated with the business, many years later.
Yeah, really important for us to support our independent members in the community.
Yeah, brilliant. So your well-being, this one's always a doozy, right? So, we know this stuff. And as a leader, it's so hard to create balance and make sure that you're prioritizing yourself. Are there any tips that you can give, or learnings or lessons for people who are dialing in today?
Yeah, for me, it's been a little bit challenging. So I enjoy the gym, F45 fanatic. So a lot of my stress management is through physical activity. So not being able to do that to the extent that I would like to has been hard. So part of, I guess, addressing that has been actually be kind to yourself. Don't have such big, high expectations, and be kinder, which I find a little bit challenging. Probably a bit of a perfectionist there, but just being kind and going, that's not possible now, but just keep moving to help you get through it. And then I'm lucky I live the street away from the beach in Port Melbourne, so daily walks of the beach, hugs from your partner, so that goes, you can still get that connection. So and then just not trying to take on everyone else's stuff as well, which is a lifelong learning for me. So still work in progress, but particularly if you're in the P&C space, you do talk to a lot of people, you do hear a lot of challenges that they're facing. So that's just a lifelong learning, just to kind of be there for them, but not take it on yourself. So no magical trick how to overcome that, but just a constant reminder, that you can't do it all, and you can't be there. You can't change the world for someone else, but you can listen at least.
And again, there's the L word. It's the second time you've listened. You've said listen. For those who are dialing in, that's kind of a little learning from me around Ana's little gems of goodness. I think it's really so important for all of us to be listening, and listening to really hear rather than listening to respond, which is a much harder skill than I think most of us would like to admit.
The old active listening.
Absolutely. Just a reminder for those who are dialing in, if you have any questions, I would absolutely welcome, and so would Ana, welcome them, because we want to make sure that this session is as meaningful as possible for you as well. So I've got plenty of questions to ask Ana, but if you do have any, please send them through and I'll prioritize them. Ana, I guess if you think about the future of your industry in particular, and COVID has impacted really most industries, but where do you see wellbeing fitting in with the future of Mitre 10, and given the fact that DIY is probably here to stay, even after COVID, what do you think are some of the challenges, and how might you be able to support your people moving forward?
I think it becomes even more important. I don't think the challenges we're facing in the world will end. I think they'll only continue, and life will become more blended between work and personal life. So how do we make sure that we look after and support a person's well-being, but accept them as their whole self at work, which is a little bit different than we've been historically. So I'm not sure what the right solution is or what the right program is or tools, but we need to think about the person as their whole self, their well-being, as well as the professional side of them. So I think that's something that we need to continue to play out in the workforce, and particularly with supporting our members. They're often smaller stores or our franchisees. So how do we actually extend our toolkit and our support across the community as well? So there's some of the things that we're starting to think about. We've got village meetings that we have with our independent members coming up through November. So I'm going to present on health, safety and wellbeing for the first time, because they're challenged with some wellbeing initiatives as well, and what can they do to support their team. So I think that's going to become even more important. So what's our wellbeing agenda? And that's something that we're definitely looking at more widely across Metcash as well as the hardware channel. So is that through toolbox talks? Is it through webinars? Is it through, we've put some of our team through the 2-day Oranges Toolkit training, which got resounding positive feedback. So how do we make that more available and have wider reach across our organisation to give people those tools to manage themselves and their health and wellbeing?
And what I'm hearing is there's not really a one size fits all, and it's a test and see again, right?
Yeah.
And I that's one of my key things when I'm giving any advice to any organization is one size will just never fit all, and you just want to test and see what goes on. Some initiatives people will love, and some there will be a small group that participate, but that's the wellbeing initiative that they need most for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we have been asking sharing on our social media pages for Mental Health Month questions that we as individuals at the Oranges Toolkit really resonate with when we think about our own health and wellbeing. And the question that we shared earlier this week from myself, and the question I really love to ask people at the moment, is what's your biggest learning during COVID-19? In fact, I might actually just literally ask you that. What has been your biggest learning about yourself during COVID-19?
For me, probably being more present. So I'm a person that I'm just busy all the time. There's a lot going on at work, family commitments, trying to support family members, and always got 100,000 things to do, but absolutely being present. I think COVID has really taught us that in terms of appreciating the small things and being active and present in the moment that you're in, rather than thinking through everything else that needs to happen. So those, I think for me, the lesson has been the small things, the hugs, the smiles, the conversations, and then being actively in it rather than thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow or an hour down the track. So that's been a key learning for me, which has brought some really enriching and meaningful experiences back into my life, which has been awesome.
Lovely. And getting engaged is always good during COVID-19, isn't it?
Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Yes,
but you still like each other, and you've been stuck in an apartment.
We have for the last 2.5 months.
So I guess on the extension of my question, what's the question that you like to either ask yourself or people around you, to help them or yourself keep well-being front of mind?
I think there's probably a couple. One, I think a really important one for me personally, and I think that could be useful for others, is just being curious. We don't know what's going on for someone else. Sometimes we make assumptions. Particularly during COVID, we've seen it. If someone's acting in a different manner or, appearing a little bit more stressed, we just take that on face value rather than just stepping back and being a little bit more curious and understanding that there might be something going on for them that we're not aware of. So just being patient and kind to that person through that curiosity lens, I think is really important, because we've all got a lot of stuff going on and we don't know what's happening in the background. So I think that I've tried to do that through my life in general, but I think particularly during COVID and this time, I think that's important. So how can I be more curious is probably a key question. And then for me personally, you've gone through a roller coaster of emotions in the last 18 months to 2 years, and really being more cognizant around what's happening for me. So if I'm experiencing a negative emotion, and something I learned through the Oranges Toolkit was naming that emotion has been really important for me. So if I'm upset unexpectedly, like really, being okay with that, and that's okay, and naming it has really helped me then move forward. So really understanding what's happening for me and being a bit more conscious about that.
Yeah, I think managing negative emotions is one of the most powerful tools you can learn, because they pop up. And if you're in lockdown in Melbourne or Sydney, or just life in general, they pop up regularly, right? And we're not really ever given those tools to know what to do with it. First of all, have awareness of it, and then know what to do with it. And the technique that Ana, for those that dialing in, is called the naming and taming technique. It's just so powerful to take a moment to stop and reflect what exactly that emotion is. Because we often, when we think of a negative emotion, we go straight to the fact that we feel angry, but maybe there's other emotions. Maybe we feel ashamed or worried or anxious. And taking that moment to reflect can help you kind of dial down this kind of an immediate emotional response. And Ana, I really like your question around curiosity, and I totally agree. Right now, it has helped us hopefully connect with each other and realize that we all have so much going on in our lives. And it's an important reminder for me to keep that question front of mind as well. So rewind, Ana, to your first leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to ask you how many years ago it was.
Yeah.
Now, knowing what you know about life and leadership and wellbeing and employee experience, what would you tell your first leadership self about leadership?
Well, one, it's complex. It's definitely complex. To also back yourself. I think my first leadership role was quite a big step. So it was probably more than I anticipated, but really to back yourself that you can do it, and to give yourself time to get there. So I had said no to this role, which is a big leadership step for my career, so many times. I'm like, haven't done it before, it's too big. But actually, once I stepped into it and actually was patient with myself and backed myself, it was actually led to much more success through the rest of my career. So to have, and particularly as a female, as we we're not as confident sometimes in stepping into those bigger roles and those leadership roles. And 9 times out of 10, we've got the skills and the capability, and let's just give it a go. And then the rest of my career has really been focused on that leadership journey, which has been which I've really enjoyed. So crafting, nurturing talent, helping a business in terms of strategy. It's all been enriching career experiences, but I've just got to back myself a little bit and step into it.
Beautiful. So if you're dialing in and you're a relatively new leader, the wisdom there is to back yourself and give it a crack. And if you fail along the way, that's part of the leadership experience and learning and growing. So what is the well-being lesson that just keeps coming at you over and over again, that you probably wish you didn't have to keep relearning over the last 18 months?
I think just the notion of being kinder to yourself, particularly over the last 18 months where it has been more complex than before. I think sometimes we expect ourselves to react in certain ways or have certain outcomes or achievements, but life is more complex. It's sticky, it's grey, it's ambiguous. So that's okay. Just be kind to yourself. And if you have a bad day, get yourself up again. So the whole notion of resilience. So fall down 8 times, get up the 9th time. So just be kind. Be kinder to yourself. For someone that's a perfectionist, that's quite challenging, but I keep reminding myself, be kind to yourself.
Yeah, I love that. And for those, I'm not sure if you know the research of Kristen Neff, Ana, but she's a key researcher in the space of self-compassion. So for anyone else who also has to keep relearning this idea of being kind and generous to yourself, the researcher Kristen Neff, Neff, can potentially highlight some great tools to support you to be a little kinder to yourself like you would to anyone else. second to last question,
Mm-hmm.
Ana. Which one do I ask? That's the problem. Which question haven't I asked you that I should have asked you?
Oh, that's interesting. Which question? Not sure. I'm not sure. Yeah, you've got me stumped there. I'm not sure what you haven't, because we've had a good conversation. Maybe around some things, the whole, so in terms of wellbeing, the whole notion of productive and unproductive strategies. So that's something that I've been learning myself. So there's some things that we might think are really good ways to manage our wellbeing, but they might not be sustainable, for instance. So making sure that that you've got a repertoire of options in terms of managing your wellbeing. For instance, a lot of my wellbeing is linked to high physical activity, and when that's not available, I've derailed a couple of times. So making sure that, in this case, that's not sustainable. So how can I make sure I've got a repertoire of tools available quite quickly that I can help with my wellbeing versus just relying on the one thing. So that's, I've been sort of, challenged with that notion around just relying on one piece, which may not be productive all the time in all situations.
Yeah. So good. And I loved the fact that you had to pause there for a while. So another little technique for anyone just leading is just to give people that space to let them do that awkward silent speaking thing, right? Where you're like, oh, quick, maybe I should ask another question or fill that space. There's such beauty in the quietness and reflection of that sort of split second or 2 or 3 seconds of self-reflection. And what a beautiful opportunity to kind of share the fact that wellbeing needs to have a range of different tools in your toolkit to make it sustainable. So my last question for you.
Yep.
What is your version of camping? What does it look like?
Well, it starts with a G, glamping, not camping. I'm not much of a camper. I like nice things. But if I had to say camping, it'd have to be family and lots of people that I really enjoy. So I have gone camping only twice in my life, so about to turn 50 next month, in December. Only been camping twice, but there've been some really positive experiences with the kids, nieces and nephews, lots of adults around at the fireside having a few drinks and just connecting. So if it's going to be camping and not glamping, it's got to be with close friends and family and connection. So that would be really important to me, because that's what adds the value to me and creates meaning. So
yeah, beautiful. Thank you very much. I can't believe how quickly half an hour goes. Ana, thank you so much for sharing your experience and your wisdom with everyone dialing in today. For those who liked the session today, we have 2 more sessions popping up over the next couple of weeks. Next week, we're interviewing Jim he's a managing director from O'Connell Dow. And then the week after, a gentleman who knows Ana, actually, Craig Murphy from Henley Properties. To register, you can simply just basically get your phone out and use the QR code to register for those sessions. Again, they're free, and they're just a 30-second fireside chat with myself. And then last but not least, thank you, Ana, from both the Oranges Toolkit and also Camp Quality for supporting us here today and sharing your wisdom, and also being one of our clients and helping us create a better life for kids facing cancer. For anyone who wants information and wants to follow our socials, you can also use that QR code. But thank you, Ana, very much for just being an absolute legend as always. And we look forward to working with you more in the future.
Absolutely. Thanks, Tegan. Thanks to everyone at Oranges Toolkit. You've been a wonder across 2 organisations for us. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you, Ana. Thank you, everyone. Hopefully see you next week. We'll obviously provide a recording as well afterwards if you want to get a bit geeky and watch afterwards. But thank you, and we look forward to seeing you all soon.
Awesome.